Leader of his party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the nations of the world are in Montreal right now at the UN Biodiversity Summit to try and reach an agreement again on the steps needed to halt and reverse the deterioration of the web of life. Mr. Speaker, nature makes life possible on this planet. It's where we get our oxygen supply. It's where we get our water supply. It's where we get our food supply. Just over a year ago, the Standing Committee on Climate Change and Environmental Stewardship recommended some actions, Mr. Speaker, that could help make a difference now, right here in New Brunswick, that would be measurable and effective. One of those recommendations was that forestry practices, which currently are eradicating the diversity provided by the remaining old hardwood, mixed wood and softwood forests on Crown lands, be prohibited. It's recommendation number 8, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Natural Resources. Will he implement the committee's recommendation number 8, yes or no, without too much elaboration, Mr. Speaker? Thank you.
Minister of Natural Resources and Energy Development.
Speaker, to the member opposite, I've got 60 minutes to answer and address whatever has come out of the member opposite, so I'll take every little bit of that, and I hope he's going to follow it up with some more questions. Mr. Speaker, when the member opposite asks a question like that, it would seem as though he has not paid attention to any of the work that we have done to put some world-class leading conservation methods in place. When I heard the member from Memramcook make her member statement, it was embarrassing to hear her talk about the way that New Brunswick is apparently being painted as a destroyer, as opposed to the work that we're doing that's world leading when it comes to conservation. Mr. Speaker, we have embarked upon a process that is historic as it relates to the diverse expansion of our natural landscape. We are working with species at risk, we are working to expand areas, we are working to protect old growth, deer wintering areas, and there's no lessons to be learned from the member opposite about conservation. Thank you.
The member for Fredericton-South and Leader of his party.
I'll take that as a no, Mr. Speaker. So, recommendation 15 of the Standing Committee report called on the legislature to appoint a legislative officer charged with the responsibility for overseeing the stewardship of Crown lands and waters by April 1st of last year with an appropriate budget. Mr. Speaker, just as we have an advocate for children, youth and seniors, the committee felt that we should have an advocate for Crown lands and waters reporting to this legislature. New Brunswick with concerns about the state of the use of wetlands, forests, rivers, lakes, estuaries, bays, even our shorelines could request an investigation. Moreover, that legislative officer would provide regular reports to this legislature about the state of our forests, freshwater and saltwater ecosystems, and the sustainability of the resource use within them. So, will the Minister of Natural Resources table a bill to create an advocate for Crown lands and waters in New Brunswick? Yes or no?
Minister of Natural Resources and Energy Development.
Mr. Chair, the member opposite loves to talk about reports and committees and all sorts of bureaucratic stuff that allows them to work in the world of the theoretical. I would argue that the world of conservation, the world of our natural resources, has an advocate in this government that has taken steps unlike any other government in the past. We've seen conservation forests drop under other governments. In this government, we're seeing it increase. We've seen in other governments, we've seen an ignorance and a lack of attention to species at risk. We've seen this government put a strategy and a mitigation plan together for over 50 of the 80 species that are at risk. Work like that's never been done before. So the member opposite can talk all he wants about living in a theoretical world. But when we walked into this legislature in 2018, and for every day since, we have said we are going to put a practical foot forward and make sure that our time spent here has a positive impact not only for today, not only for tomorrow, but for generations to come, Mr. Speaker.